Hi guys, Grant Nelson again here with the Mustache Offgrid YouTube channel. In case you're new to the channel, I discuss various off-grid and homesteading topics. I live off-grid in southern Missouri in a log cabin that I built. And anyway, that's a little bit about me. I'll put the email down here if you have any topics you'd like me to cover, or whether they are political topics, conspiracy topics, gardening topics, livestock, anything like that. You can send them email to the channel. So anyway, I'm going to get right into what I felt like discussing today. You know, I try to make this a homesteading channel, but I tend to just discuss whatever's on my mind and whatever I feel like one would be good information for people to know, and also maybe provide a little bit of entertainment for someone that watches YouTube. So anyway, I heard a recent news story. You know, we all seen what's going on in Iran. People have been talking about war in Iran for a year or two anyway. I would say people have been talking about a war in Iran as far as some of the prepper and homesteading channels that I watch. They've been talking about it probably before the 2024 presidential election. They've been talking about it way before that. And I seen that Tucker Carlson was talking about the CIA monitoring his phone and possibly going to arrest him and blah blah blah, and poor Tucker Carlson. And he's like, oh, the CIA is monitoring my phone. And you know, I specifically remember a story back when Tucker Carlson first started his YouTube channel after he got fired from Fox or laid off or whatever it was. And he said, someone came up to him and told him, so I hear you're going to interview Vladimir Putin, was what the person came up to Tucker Carlson and told him that. And he said, how there's no way you could know that, because he claims he hadn't told anyone about it at all. Which, you know, whatever you want to believe on that, but it's probably true that he might not have told anyone at all. But as far as it goes, he was claiming like, oh, someone had wiretapped his phone probably, or jacked into his conversation or something like that. And that stuff's been going on with the Patriot Act for a long time. Common knowledge, CIA tactic, whatever. And a person with as much influence as Tucker Carlson has had, you know, wouldn't surprise me. I think he's got at least 3+ million subscribers on YouTube. You know, he was a Fox News host, so a lot of people were watching his show then. And the intelligence agencies have had a big influence in U.S. media, probably since the U.S. media started on television, and probably even more so when they had newspapers as more of the form of communication. And I think that it was a lot easier for the intelligence agencies to control the news and what American people were believing and seeing on the news before social media. When it was just paper, I mean, you can print any story, and it'd be a lot easier to fake that than an actual video of someone doing something, which now with the AI and the deep fakes, they could probably fake that stuff too. But it's a lot easier to print a news article that says a certain thing that's not actually what happened. That's all I'm getting at. And as far as like news reporting, it's the same thing. All they're doing is speaking that same story verbally. And so Tucker Carlson claims, oh, CIA is monitoring my text messages. He's acting like he might get arrested or something, blah, blah, blah. And then he's crying that people are saying, oh, he's anti-Semitic, or oh, this, oh, that, because he questions Israel. And he's acting like the CIA is out to get him, and the establishment is out to get him. And to be honest, in my opinion, he is doing such a good job selling himself as just this unbiased guy, that just some hillbilly from out in Vermont or wherever the heck he's from. Just like, oh yeah, he just got fired from Fox News and just started a YouTube channel, and now he's covering all these stories with all these influential people, and he's blah blah blah. And I don't buy it. I don't buy it. I think my personal opinion is that he's an intelligence asset. I think either he's in the CIA, or the CIA is paying him, or he works with the CIA in tandem. And it's all a psyop, and you can't believe anything that these people are telling you. I think a lot of what they're telling you is the truth. I do believe that. But it's to get people to think a certain way about certain topics. Reasons I believe that Tucker Carlson could be an intelligence asset. One is that his father had CIA ties. And if you go on Wikipedia, you won't find anything about that, but he himself has admitted that. And the issue I have, that doesn't prove anything, right? It's just evidence. It's not proof. The definition between proof and evidence. Proof would be a video of someone robbing a store from the security cameras, and it has their ID in the video, and you can definitively prove that that's the person. Their license plate driving away at right after the scene as well. Something like that would be pretty good proof that they did it. Now the definition between that and evidence would be, okay, there was a footprint of the same shoe. His cell phone record was in the area at the same time it happened, and the person that committed the robbery looked like him. So that would be evidence. The other one's more proof, where it's like, yeah, there's pretty good proof. Enough evidence leads to a proof. And there's differences in the quality of evidence as well. And off topic a little bit, but that's one thing that bothers me online with the Epstein files. You have people saying, oh, put them all in jail, put them all in jail, and some of them I agree with. Some of them there's pretty good evidence. But as far as proof, I haven't really seen any proof in the emails of much as far as the different people sending the emails. I mean, we know some of the names in the files. There's a lot of emails with some code words or some cryptic messaging, but we just don't have enough proof to jail someone over it. There's a lot of evidence, and as far as the public goes, we can make our own conclusions on that evidence, and we can decide to not buy stuff from certain people's companies or make our own opinions on that person, maybe steer clear of them, and not support them or their organizations and things like that. But as far as the difference between proof and evidence and putting someone in jail, I think a lot of people don't have a deep enough and logical enough and rational enough understanding of the legal system to understand the difference between proof and evidence and how a court trial works with the jury. How a jury trial works, and you know, it only takes one juror to get someone off, and it only takes two jurors for it not to be a hung jury where they can't retry it. And that's how OJ got off. He basically they just were able to convince one of the jurors in a jury trial. And as far as the difference between proof and evidence, beyond a reasonable doubt, and that reasonable doubt is interpretive. It's different for everyone. 10% could be a reasonable doubt to, maybe you think there's a 90% chance the person did it. Is that enough to put them in jail when there's a 10% chance that they might not have done it, in your mind, if you're breaking it down? You know, that's the difference between a reasonable doubt. And it only takes one juror saying, well, I just don't have enough evidence to put someone in jail for this crime. I think they might have done it, but there's just not enough evidence for me to convict them. So keep that in mind when thinking about people saying, oh, put so-and-so in jail or this, that, or blah, blah, blah. Proof and evidence and the differences. But back to the Tucker Carlson deal. His father was in the CIA. His father had CIA ties. He admitted it. I believe it was in a Candace Owens interview. And he said that, yeah, growing up, like my father, we knew he was involved in that life. And basically he said that he would have his friends over that were also involved in it. And I'll try to play the video clip to show you guys what I'm talking about here in this video if I can. If not, I'll put a link to the video clip in the description of the video that you can go and watch for yourself and see what I'm talking about here.
Whatever, and I'm like, well, that's my dad. Is the CIA, his dad's in the CIA or whatever, and I'm like, well, that's no, untrue. Then my father dies, and I learn, actually, yeah, you know, was involved in that world. I was completely shocked by it, so no one has to believe me, but that's just a fact.
You sure about that?
Oh, you're from a CIA family. Well, yeah, obviously my father worked in conjunction with CIA. I mean, that's what that is. Yeah, I applied to CIA when I was a senior in college. A lot of my father's friends served as operations officers who were always at our house. I mean, I applied to CIA. My dad worked with CIA. I was never against CIA. I mean, the guy who took out Mossadegh lived on my street. One of the Roosevelt CIA officer. So, I mean, again, I grew up around this stuff, but...
You took a pretty well-publicized trip with your father. Was it about a year and a half ago? How long has it been?
Since we were in Pakistan. Down to Nicaragua for the summer and work and, you know, get involved in the war, you know, and support the side that we thought was right.
Where you got left behind for a couple days.
Oh, no, that was when I went to Vietnam with John McCain. Yeah, I had a hassle at the airport. I mean, I lie. If I'm really cornered or something, I lie. I don't like lying. I certainly do it, you know, out of weakness or whatever. Sometimes the truth is inconvenient.
Okay, so his father was in the CIA, but then also the next issue that I have with that's not enough, that's just evidence. But then he said he lied about that, or at least maybe it wasn't a lie, but he certainly changed his narrative on that aspect. He said, I think it was in 2024, that, yeah, we knew it growing up, and he would have his friends over from the CIA, etc. And then on the Sean Ryan show, he said that, yeah, Nick Fuentes started talking about my father being in the CIA. This is what Tucker Carlson basically said. And then he said, I had no idea he was in the CIA. And then he died, and then we found out all this information that he was. Now, he's saying this years apart. 2 years beforehand, he's saying, oh, yeah, we all knew my dad was in the CIA. And then later, he's saying, we had no idea he was in the CIA until he died. So that conflict, to me, it doesn't prove that he's in the CIA, but why would you change your narrative on something, such a basic fact? To give an example, like my dad was a cement mason, and I wouldn't say, yeah, I never knew he was a cement mason until later in my life, or and then later on I'd change my narrative and say, yeah, I always knew he was a cement mason. It wouldn't make any sense in that regard to change that narrative there. So to me, that's two pieces of evidence that add up to things, okay? So then the next aspect you got to look at is the scientific fact, he admitted it openly, that he applied to be in the CIA after he graduated college. He applied to be in the CIA after he graduated college, and he was rejected, okay? So is that true? I mean, to me, Tucker Carlson being rejected from the CIA would be exactly what you want someone to believe. Yeah, he never got in. He never got in for sure. So his dad's in the CIA. He lies about his dad's CIA career, or at least maybe not career, but maybe his connections. And then he applied for the CIA himself, so clearly he's sympathetic to that cause. then they allegedly rejected him. According to his word, they rejected him. The CIA is never going to tell us whether that's true or false. And then he's openly stated that he's pro-CIA in some interviews, and he said, yeah, I'm okay with the intelligence agencies, blah, blah, blah. And then other interviews, he says, I'm a sworn enemy of the CIA. So these conflicting narratives don't make any sense. You either don't like the CIA and you're not involved in it, or you're sympathetic to it and possibly involved in it, maybe involved in it. I don't think that, the way it operates, that he's allowed to openly say that. But to me, it seems like purpose misinformation one way or the other. And then, yeah, so he gets rejected from the CIA after college, and then all of a sudden he is the television host for Fox News. Like, how convenient, right? It's kind of interesting to me how many different CIA people get into large positions of power. I remember a few years ago, I think it was the Budweiser CEO that was pushing all this, these transgender beer cans and such. I think he was also prior CIA, which, is that just coincidental? Maybe. Me personally, at this point in American history, knowing what the CIA has done over time, with MK Ultra, with different uprisings in different countries to try to create wars. I can't prove it, but I tend to believe that some of the uprisings prior to this Iran war were probably CIA, and there's probably some pretty good evidence of that. You look at like the Bay of Pigs, and they use the same tactics in these third world countries or other countries to try to overthrow governments, to try to place someone in power that's, I would say, generally more capitalist, is the way that they try to frame it. But in reality, I think that it's actually a bigger picture than just that. I think there's more to it. I think it may be a form of population control, or something to do with the one world government and the new world order. Part of the reason I believe such a deep train of thought on that aspect is an interview that I seen with John Kiriakou. He's a former CIA agent. Now, I don't trust anyone former CIA or current CIA. I just don't trust it. But he said that, I believe it was David Rockefeller, when he was starting in the CIA, they asked him if he would want to, if he would want to chauffeur David Rockefeller when he came to New York, because he was going to New York for a arts award. And, he was in his 90s at the time. And John Kiriakou says, sure, yeah, I'd love to do that. So he chauffeurs David Rockefeller around, and then he brings David Rockefeller home, and then after it's all said and done, he goes to his superior, and he asked his superior. His superior said it went great. David Rockefeller loved him, blah, 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 whatever. And he said, I have one question for you, to his supervisor. He said, what does a 90-plus-year-old David Rockefeller, what is multi-billionaire, coming to New York to collect an arts award, and then he's going to Iraq afterwards? I think it was Iraq. Leaf blowing on the camera. And he said that he wasn't actually going here to collect an arts award. He was the diplomat, basically, the ambassador to Iraq, to Saddam Hussein. But that was not a public available fact but John Kiriakou said this on one of the interviews that I seen him doing, and that makes me realize that there is a greater connection between some of these governments and the elite.
In the American Embassy, I was the economic officer. And I was a longtime subscriber to this wonderful magazine called Art News Magazine. And I read this article about David Rockefeller being given this major art world award for the work that he's done over the course of 75 years or whatever it was for art in New York. And then we get a cable from the State Department saying that David Rockefeller is coming to Bahrain because he's being given an award by the Bahraini American Bankers Association. And the ambassador comes into my office, David Ransom. Wonderful, wonderful ambassador. Lovely human being. One of the best bosses I ever had. And he said, hey, we got a cable from state saying that David Rockefeller's coming out to Bahrain. He's going to collect this award from the Bankers Association. I said, the Bankers Association? And he said, yeah, I want you to be his control officer. I said, I'd love to be his control officer. What that means is you arrange the car, you arrange the hotel, you make sure he gets from point A to point B, and just make sure there are no problems. If he wants to go shopping, you take him shopping, you do anything he wants. I welcomed it. Well, as soon as the Bahrainis heard that David Rockefeller was coming, His Highness the Emir announces, we're going to do a state dinner, right? So the entire cabinet, the entire royal family, the entire diplomatic corps, all the ambassadors, all the credited diplomats, this is a major event. Like the biggest social event of the year. It's at his main palace. There are like 500 people there. So I go, and I was saving my See, I thought I was very clever. I was just a stupid kid. So I saved my congratulations for his award for the receiving line. So I say to the Emir, it's such a pleasure to see you, Your Highness. And I said, the Prime Minister, we didn't like each other very much. Like, hello.
Hello.
Hello. He would always say, hello, Kiriakou. Yeah. And then he would kind of stare at me.
You're like the spy version of a Veep episode. I don't know if anyone ever told you that. But...
And then comes David Rockefeller. And I said, Mr. Rockefeller, I want to congratulate you on your, whatever it was called, award. Oh, he lights up. Thank you so much. I'm so proud of that award, the Guggenheim and the Met. And then I, go. And then the next night he collects his award from the Bankers Association and he leaves. So we had a 9 o'clock meeting in the embassy every day. It was, the ambassador, the deputy chief of mission, and the heads of all the departments. So I'm in there in the morning meeting, and the ambassador says, so the Rockefeller visit went very well. And I said, because I'm an idiot, I said, why would a guy who's almost 100 years old fly halfway around the world to collect a little trophy from some bankers that he's never met before? And the ambassador goes like this. He goes, John, you're supposed to be the smart one. I said, what? What am I missing? He's like, he didn't come for the Bankers Award. That was his cover stop. And I said, so what was he doing here? He said, David Rockefeller is the secret back channel to Saddam Hussein. He came here to make it look like he had business in the Middle East. We put him on a military transport this morning and sent him to Baghdad to tell Saddam Hussein to cut it out or you're going to get a bomb up your ass. And then he flew back from Baghdad. And I was like, man, I have a lot to learn. Wow.
That didn't impact your worldview a little bit?
Oh, yeah, it sure did.
Especially some of these third world governments, Russia, Tucker Carlson going to Russia to interview Putin, kind of interesting. And it's also kind of interesting that during the interview with Vladimir Putin brought up Tucker Carlson, CIA. Yeah, you applied for the CIA, but you weren't approved. And he kind of gave him like a sideways, not a compliment. It was kind of almost like he was making fun of Tucker Carlson away when he said it. He said it's a serious organization, basically acting like Tucker Carlson wasn't a serious person. So it's kind of interesting if you watch that clip. I'll try to put in the video here.
With the backing of whom?
With the backing of CIA, of course. The organization you wanted to join back in the day, as I understand. We should thank God they didn't let you in. Although, it is a serious organization. I understand. My former vis-a-vis in the sense that I served in the first main directorate, Soviet Union's intelligence service.
When Vladimir Putin himself mentions the Tucker Carlson CIA connection, and maybe Vladimir Putin knew that before he did the interview. That's just a thought for people to consider. Maybe he knew something that we don't, that we can't prove anyway, or that we have evidence of but we can't prove. But 1 + 1 = 2 in my mind. That's all I'm going to say. And 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 = 4. So, anyway, that's just a ramble here, guys. Another interesting connection with the elites and the world. Does anyone ever remember, Dennis Rodman and Kim Jong-un apparently are good friends, and he was over there hanging out with Kim Jong-un, and he's not necessarily an elite, but he is an elite as far as how much he has net worth. He's a former professional basketball player, Hall of Famer, greatest rebounder ever to play the game, in my opinion. And but anyway, he's good friends with Kim Jong-un. He travels to North Korea and hangs out. Apparently, Kim Jong-un is a big fan of basketball, loves the 1990s Bulls. And Dennis Rodman was over there hanging out with Kim Jong-un, and they're pretty good buddies.
How you doing, guys? It's good. Do you have, what does your hat say? What's my hat say? Oh, good. Now I can see it.
Let's so you have America great again.
All right.
You got it right there? You got it?
I got it. Thank you. So you made your way to Singapore. How important is this to you? You talked a lot about the prospects for peace when we spoke several years ago. Did you think this moment would ever come?
Well, in my heart and soul, when I first went to North Korea, I was very honored to even be selected to go there. And once I went to North Korea, I was didn't really understand what the old situation was as far as being over there. And when I first met Kim Il-sung, I was more like, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know who he was. I didn't know what he represented. I didn't know if he was someone important. But I knew something was going on. But once I got familiar with the culture and the situation over there, I got really used to being there. I felt like I was at home.
Now you know both men. You've spent time with the North Korean leader. You've spent time with Donald Trump. How do you think the two men size up in terms of how they might get along?
Well, I think the fact that Donald Trump would understand the fact that the people of North Korea have a heart, they have soul, charisma, and they love each other. And I think the fact that Kim Il-sung and his family understands that. I think that President Trump should understand the fact that the reason why the Marshal of North Korea respects Dennis Rodman, the fact that he trusts me. And I gave him something for his birthday, and I thought I couldn't pull this off. And I said to him on the day before his birthday, I said, I'm going to give you a present. And he said, what is that? I said, I'm going to bring a basketball team, professional basketball team to you. He said, can you do that? I said, yes, I can. Even though I knew I couldn't do it, I said, if I fail now, it's going to be a problem. So basically, I got a lot of people together. I got Popcorn here helping me out, my sponsor. Thanks to those guys. And it happened, and Kim Il-sung came to me and said, Dennis, you know what? This is the first time someone's ever kept their word to me and my country. And I looked at him, I always got emotional. I said, wait a minute,
Do you need to move some books over?
Oh, no, it's fine.
Someone's never kept their word to you and your country? He said, yes, this is the first time someone's ever suggested that. And I came through, and I think that he really appreciated that, the fact that he's not normally hearing someone that's trustworthy. And I think that country is normally hearing people that's always lying, deceitful, and not trustworthy. And I think that if Trump goes in there with a great heart, with his heart on the table, and let Kim Jong-un see him really emotional as far as like speaking to him. It ain't got to be about war. It ain't got to be about hatred or what happened in the future or in the past, the past. We move on to the future. And I've told people about Kim Jong-un. He's all about the 21st century. He's trying to progress his country. And Donald Trump is going to do a great job in trying to reach out and make sure that our hands, Americans, our hands are always open, because as Americans, we have let so many people around the world join us to be happy in one country. That's the United States. And now we have really put ourselves on a line to reach out to North Korea. And they've been so gracious to me, my family, and the United States. So let's make this happen. If Trump could pull this off, more power to him.
Dennis, did Kim reach out to you, or any of his people reach out to you? The president's people, anybody reach out to you for insight into the other side?
Well, you know what? I've talked to those guys.
Reach out to you for insight into the other side?
Well, you know what? I've talked to those guys the last 5 years.
Which guys?
And I talked to Kim Jong-un and an administration over there 5 years ago. And he asked me 5 years ago, we sat down for lunch. And he sat down and asked me, hey, Dennis, I would like to ask you three things. If you go back to tell the President of the United States these three things, and I would be willing to talk to him. And it's a true story, and I got my people here that was there that heard the conversation. He said things like, if they can move the ships back from South Korea, I would do what I have to do to listen. If you can move certain things or do certain things, I will listen. My ears will be open. And I tried to do that to Obama, and Obama didn't even give me the time of day. I asked him, I said, I have something to say from North Korea. He just brushed me off. But that didn't deter me. I still kept going back. I kept going back. I showed my loyalty and my trustworthy to this country. And I said to everybody, I said, the door will open.
I remember you saying it. I remember you saying it. Let me ask you something. Does Kim understand English, Dennis?
It's amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing. When I said those things, when I said those damn things, when I went back home, I got so many death threats. I got so many death threats, and I was sitting there protecting everything. And I believed in North Korea. And when I went home, I couldn't even go home. I had to hide out for 30 days. I couldn't even go home. But I kept my head up high, brother. I knew things were going to change. I knew it. I was the only one. I never had no one to hear me. I didn't know one had to see me. But I took those bullets. I took all that. I took everything. Everyone came at me, and I'm still standing. And today is a great day for everybody. Singapore, Tokyo, China, everything. It's a great day.
It is a great day. This is a historic day.
I'm so happy.
You were saying to me years ago that you thought this would happen. And I want to let you be ready for me to ask you another question. I know you're very emotional about this.
Go ahead.
This is what I want to know. I want to know, well, you're an emotional guy. You feel very deeply about things. People who've been around you understand that.
Right.
Why did you feel...
And then in Trump's first term, when Trump went and visited North Korea, Trump and Dennis Rodman actually have some connections prior to his presidency. And Dennis Rodman was on The Apprentice, I believe it was. And he did pretty well, actually, on The Apprentice, I believe. But him and Donald Trump have known each other for quite a while, especially from that reality TV connection there. And then all of a sudden Donald Trump becomes president, and all of a sudden Donald Trump ends up visiting North Korea, where very few Americans go. But Dennis Rodman is good friends with the president there. So just another consideration there when I'm talking about these people that are kind of almost handlers of different countries' presidents and governments, maybe on an elite level, maybe on an intelligence asset level, maybe they're celebrities, maybe they're multi-billionaires or people with a lot of influence in that regard, maybe there's someone else. But consider that not everything you see is necessarily reality, and not everything you see is necessarily the way it looks. The only thing that I can say that you can trust as far as what you see on your screen on your phone or on your television is nothing, one, but also anything that's in front of you that you do yourself and you can confirm yourself with proof, not just evidence. Those are the only things you can actually believe anymore, especially with deepfakes, AI, and such. So next aspect I want to get into in this conspiracy theorist ramble of New World Order, elite handlers of world leaders, and also the intelligence in our media. I was reading an article from 1977 published. I believe it was by ABC or NBC, but I'll have to get it. I'll put it in the comments below. I copied the link so that I could get the source cited. But it said that among the media companies, this was in the 1970s, I believe the article is from 1977, that there was 148 confirmed CIA assets or agents working in the media that they had interviewed personally. And that's just the ones they knew about. And they were among the biggest organizations. I believe at the time it was ABC, maybe NBC or CBS, something like that. I'll get all the names and I'll put a little description in the bottom of this video here somewhere. But, and I don't know if those ones were actually connected or not. Just want to put that out there for copyright purposes and such, you know, not trying to slander anyone. But I'll put all the information right in the bottom of the link here. So anyway, they confirmed that there was 148, I believe it was, different CIA and intelligence agents working in the media companies across the United States and across the world that they had interviewed personally. They didn't name the names in the article, which makes sense because they probably interviewed them anonymously. But it was just interesting, and people think that what they see on TV is real, and a lot of times it's not. And I also find it very suspicious that Don Lemon and Tucker Carlson were fired within a week or two of each other. They almost around the exact same time they were fired simultaneously. And the CIA likes to control both sides of the narrative. They like to control the conservative side and the liberal side. And it's also interesting that priorly, Don Lemon actually used to be a Republican. And if you actually consider the views of Don Lemon right now, I don't see how any rational, logical, college-educated human being could actually believe some of the things that he's said out loud. So I don't believe he actually believes a word he says. You look at his background. I haven't found a CIA tie yet, but I will say that I have seen he's a perfect candidate. That's all I'm going to say. Based on his education level, he's a Republican that switched to Democrat, which is common among these people. They switch back and forth between parties, and that's just some of the coincidences that I see that line up. But it was suspicious that they were fired around the same time. That's all I'm going to say. To me personally, that doesn't prove anything. It's barely considered evidence in my mind. But it is an interesting coincidence, which I don't believe in coincidences. Statistically, most of them are just too implausible to be by accident or chance. Next thing I want to get into is the Iran connection. So Tucker Carlson interviewed Joe Kent maybe a couple days ago, maybe a week ago. He was talking about why he stepped down from the CIA. He had this nice letter. Joe Kent is military intelligence, so CIA, Central Intelligence Agency, military intelligence, anything that's a government organization with intelligence in the name can't be trusted. I'm not saying that there isn't some truth to any of it, but it just can't be trusted. If you have any involvement in any government intelligence or surveillance, basically you've burned every bridge to Americans ever trusting you, in my mind. But we're still going to listen to you to see what we can decipher from your language and your actions, and whether you're psyoping us and trying to lead us one way or the other. Who knows? It's mass confusion. It's confusion the way that Satan would want people confused. It says in the Bible he is the master of confusion, and that is exactly how the intelligence agencies operate. They want you thinking this way when it's actually this way, and vice versa. So, basically, he interviewed Joe Kent. Joe Kent brought up an interview that, not an interview, but he said that one day in the hallway, prior to Charlie Kirk getting assassinated, Charlie Kirk was walking, they were walking in the hallway, and Charlie Kirk said one thing to him. That's all he said to him. Basically, Charlie Kirk told him, do not let us get into a war with Iran. That's the one thing that Charlie Kirk said to him, according to Joe Kent. Now, Charlie Kirk's dead, so we can never confirm if that's true or false. We just got to take Joe Kent's word for it.
Kirk on this earth. I saw Charlie Kirk on this earth was in June in the West Wing in the stairway. That's a tight space. I said hi to him, and he looked me in the eye, and he said very loudly, Joe, stop us from getting into a war with Iran. So when one of President Trump's closest advisors, who is vocally advocating for us to not go to war with Iran and for us to rethink at least our relationship with the Israelis, and then he's suddenly publicly assassinated, and we're not allowed to ask any questions about that, it's a data point that we need to look into.
Like I said, which is no good. Once you're involved with any intelligence agency, your word's no longer good. And the funny thing is, even if your family's in the intelligence agency, your word's no longer good. It just can't be trusted. But anyway, Joe Kent said he met Charlie Kirk in the hallway in the White House or the Pentagon. I can't remember which one it was. I'll confirm in the little details below. And Joe Kent said Charlie Kirk told him not to let us get into a war with Iran, to do everything he could to prevent a war with Iran, basically. Charlie Kirk gets assassinated. Now Joe Kent's telling us this today. Joe Kent steps down because he says the reasons the White House is giving for the war in Iran are not true, basically. And it ties right into the rest of the narrative. Obviously, there's some weird things with Charlie Kirk's death. I do find it weird that Erica Kirk has not... There's a lot of coincidences that don't add up. Sure, we do have messages confirming that Tyler Robinson committed the assassination attempt, so that may very well be true. But man, there are some questions in my mind about it and the connections he has, and just connections every which way. And Candace Owens has, in my opinion, done a terrible job covering it. She's made everyone that questions it look like a whack job, because she's trying to find something and she's throwing out evidence that's not there, and it's obviously just for views, influence, and confusion, in my opinion. It's kind of funny how all these people run the same circles. All these big influential reporters run the same circles. To me, whether it's just coincidence or by chance or whatnot, all the million subscriber YouTube channels kind of run the same circles. But anyway, she, in my opinion, has made everyone that questions the Charlie Kirk assassination look like an absolute nut job because of some of the stuff she's throwing out there. But then there's a lot of things that actually don't make sense with it if you actually look into some of the things. Anyway, so Joe Kent shows that Charlie Kirk was not for the war in Iran. This was before, probably before, I mean, I guess Trump might have been elected at the time. I'll figure out that for the video as well. So Charlie Kirk opposed the war in Iran. But also when Trump was assassinated prior to the election, or they tried to assassinate him, I mean, in Butler, Pennsylvania, when that first happened, the CIA the intelligence agencies were specifically coming out saying that Iran was involved in that assassination attempt. How that's possible, I don't know. And then you look at some of the things with that. We still don't know much about that. But the FBI agent's phones tracking from the gun range to that guy's house multiple times. His house being scrubbed clean after the assassination. But allegedly, there was some... Iran was behind that assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania. I find that very hard to believe with like a white middle-class kid, basically, for Iran to somehow be involved with that kid. I haven't seen any cash payments to the guy, nothing like that. So I don't see any motive for him to just join Iran and want to then assassinate Donald Trump. It doesn't make any sense, that narrative, but it was a narrative that the CIA was claiming at the time. And actually 2 weeks ago, Pete Hegseth said that was part of the reason that we went into Iran, because Iran was involved in multiple assassination attempts of Donald Trump, was his claim 2 weeks ago. I was watching a video of it earlier. So is Iran really doing all these different assassination attempts with using white middle-class shooters? To me, I just don't buy it. I think to me, it looks more like the CIA was the ones doing it because they wanted to start a war in Iran for one reason or another. I don't know who could actually believe that Iran was actually behind those. It just doesn't make any sense. They had no motive to do any of that prior. Sure, they don't like us. Sure, they're a dictatorship for the most part, but they really had no reason to do anything to anyone, in my opinion. So, anyway, take all this information with a grain of salt, guys. I'm not saying anything's right or wrong. I'm just saying there's some weird connections in the world. You can't trust what you see on TV or on your phone or on the news. All you can trust is what you can prove yourself. And even stuff that has a lot of evidence that you can't prove, you just say, well, I think it could be this, but I can't confirm 100%. You know, this is what I think, but I don't know. And that is a great skill, being able to distinguish what seems plausible, what seems true, what seems false, and what might be the case. You know, don't get too high on your knowledge to think that you have some knowledge that no one else knows that you can't prove. Just being able to critically think and understand that you don't know everything, and we're human beings. We make mistakes in our logic and our thought processes. I cannot say that anything in my video is 100% proven theory. Like I said, there's a lot of evidence, just not enough proof for me to confirm it fully. You know, I need a W-2 from the CIA with Tucker Carlson to prove it. So anyway, on that regard, some things that I look for if I'm considering whether a news person or a influencer or someone like that is involved in intelligence, these are some of the things that I look for, and I wrote them down here. Military, law enforcement, or government experience. The more experience, the better. That's one thing that I consider. One thing about those those lines of work is they breed loyalty to the government. When you go to boot camp in the military, they try to break you down in a way and make you kind of swear an allegiance to the military and to the country, a blind allegiance. They don't want you to question the motive for a war. They want you to go to the war because they want you there. You're basically at that point government property is the way they look at it. But they breed allegiance to blind allegiance, basically. A good word for it would be a company man. A certain loyalty to the cause, to the company, regardless of whether it's right or wrong. You see that type of thing in the corporate world. So they have this allegiance and loyalty, undying, regardless of whether things are right and wrong. If the general says it, they're going to do it. If you've ever seen the movie A Few Good Men, that's a fairly accurate portrayal of that loyalty. They're never going to admit they made that mistake or that it was wrong, but they certainly did the action because they were told to do it. They don't care. If you tell them to go snipe that nest over there, you know, a quarter mile out, they're going to do it. Whether that person, whether they have enough information, that they're not going to ask questions about that action. So that's one thing. Military experience. I really support veterans, but I also am fully aware that to a certain extent the military breaks you down and wants a certain loyalty that you can't question the narrative. Law enforcement experience is kind of along the same lines, but one thing about law enforcement is police officers tend to protect each other internally. There's a certain camaraderie. Same with the military, where they protect each other, and it's a buddy system in a way. One officer might make them do something unconstitutional, and the sergeant's gonna fudge some paperwork to cover for them. Just a couple examples there of those type of connections that I look for in determining whether someone could potentially be involved in that lifestyle. The next thing I wrote down here is a large popular following and influence. Someone that seems like they're a very important person. Celebrity, news anchor, influencer on YouTube or social media. And if they are an influencer with a few million subscribers, that's generally a pretty good catch-all. I don't trust any channel that has 500,000 or more subscribers, because I realize what it takes to get to that level is rarely attainable without some capital behind you. If you look at like the Sean Ryan show, he's got prior intelligence connections, worked with the CIA. He was a CIA asset for many years. Now he's got a show kind of like Tucker Carlson's, where he has connection to all these influential people, and he interviews different CIA people. He tries to come off as like, oh, the CIA is evil, I don't trust the CIA, blah blah blah. But he created this channel, got it up to 2 to 3 million subscribers in like 1 or 2 years, making like a few videos a week. To me, that just seems kind of far-fetched. And the amount of money that I think it would take behind something like that in promotion and payments to YouTube, it just has CIA written all over it, in my opinion. Especially when you see a channel kind of pop up and just come out of nowhere, and then all of a sudden they've got millions of subscribers. Tucker Carlson was a good example, but he was also fairly famous beforehand, so he had some people come over with him to YouTube, so I mean that would give him a pretty good boost, but his channel really took off fast. And I mean, I get it to an extent. Like I said, he had a lot of people that probably just followed him for the notoriety of his name, but Sean Ryan's the exact opposite. I mean, he didn't have that type of stardom, as far as I understand, before he started his channel. He claims he started it from the ground up, just completely just by worked my way up to get to this many million subscribers. I just don't buy it. He worked with the CIA before. Some of the stuff he did in his past was completely unethical. I think he talked about dealing drugs in South America, which is, you know, perfect for CIA connections. He talked about getting into business in St. Louis and all types of stuff. I mean, just the way he operates, to me, has CIA written all over it, even today. I just don't trust it. And now he's got this great social media hold, which what the CIA is looking at today, previously we had newspapers and we had news stations, and there was radio for a while. So those three things right there were where people consumed their news, and they got their rhetoric and they got their train of thought on what's going on in the world. Now, people are moving away from the cable TV, and they're moving to, which has been happening since social media started to get big back in the mid 2000s. You've got a lot of independent journalism, independent media, and that is what people are looking to more for their news than CNN or Fox or ABC or CBS or any of these legacy media outlets. Sure, some of them have switched over to different streaming services and such, but people are less looking to those sources for news and more looking towards independent journalists because they're trying to find the truth. They're trying to find someone that goes to a level that those networks won't go. Because with independent journalism, people are looking for stories that are uncovered alternative news, basically. Stories that are uncovered outside of the legacy media spectrum. Because when the U.S. goes in and bombs Iran, all the news stations are going to cover that within an hour, obviously. And the White House is going to tell them. They're going to send that right over to them and let them know, hey, we did this. And then they're going to have a press conference. And there's going to be those news reporters you see in the press conference asking questions to the White House press secretary or Donald Trump or whoever, and they're going to be covering that. And there's only a certain amount of journalists in that room. I don't know what you got to do to qualify for it. I've read about it before, but there's only so many news stations in that room to covering it. They're looking to ask questions to try to get a more eccentric and a different point of view on the coverage of the story. Where independent journalists, instead of going to that press conference, they might go over to Iran and question a completely different source and find out something different. So a lot of people are looking away from legacy media and towards social media, towards independent journalism more. So the CIA knows that, the intelligence assets know that, and the White House knows that. Legacy media is dying and independent journalism is in. So what they're doing is they're creating independent journalist outlets. In my opinion, I'm not saying this is true, Sean Ryan, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes, people like that. They're creating these independent journalists that, oh, they interview so-and-so and he gives this new information and look at this and CIA's monitoring my phone, CIA Carlson. So they're trying to take a hold of the independent journalism outlet. like I said, I don't trust any YouTube channel that has over 500,000 subscribers, especially if they came out of nowhere. I don't trust that because it takes money to get those subscribers often. You can pay YouTube to promote your videos and get as many subscribers as you want. I won't do that. Never spent a penny on my YouTube videos, other than buying my GoPro. So anyway, the CIA and the government are creating independent journalists to try to get a hold of that independent journalist market, and you just can't trust anything you see on the screen. I watch them, but it's important to take it all with a grain of salt, look at the different points of view from different ones, and consider that this may be the case, because nothing that you hear can be considered fact anymore. It's like when Tucker Carlson tells you a story on his channel, that might be true. Or it might be the complete polar opposite of that. So, anyway, that's my ramble for the day, guys. Let's see, what else did I get here written down? Large popular following, military, government experience, government loyalty. Basically, only believe what you know from your own experiences in front of you, what you can confirm with the facts, and not the opinions and the evidence. It has to be facts. And be aware of the PSYOP propaganda machine that the intelligence agencies and the elites are setting up. And I believe personally that all the intelligence agencies, all the government agencies are ran by the elites, and they basically control Congress. That's my opinion. I could get a whole nother video on that whole topic, but anyway, hope you guys enjoy my ramble today. Let me know what you think in the comments, if you think anything's true at all, and hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you for watching the channel, and God bless you all. Sit. Sit. Good boy. Good boy. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Make Bailey famous for YouTube. Hope you all have a great rest of your day, and thank you for watching.